the next match featured Orange Cassidy going up against Cody. My big takeaway that I want to emphasize before we get into actually diving into this was by far the best actual wrestling match performance by Orange Cassidy. And I guess I'm not surprised. For me, I'm not surprised given Cody has a natural ability of, showcasing his opponents. He always does a really great job of building a story in his matches, breathing life. He's really great with pacing as far as actually allowing things to slow play throughout the match. And I think that Cassidy did a really nice job tonight of, obviously, yes, he did some of his spots with the fake, the OC kicks and stuff like that.
You have to.
It was nice to see a little bit of the actual intensity brought out, and I think that going head to head with somebody like Cody really gave Orange Cassidy a different spark. That was one of the things I was most impressed by. What do you say, SPD?
Man, this match was. I have a lot to say about this match because I have a lot of questions too. First off, why is Cody back to blonde? Like you re-debut, and then why is he back to blonde?
He teased it on social media. He did say blondes have more fun. He did say it, but where did it come from?
You're dark. You got this new persona. You got the red Nightmare Family logo, and then you come out with black hair and start whooping the Dark Order up, and then now you're back blonde. But then also, what I didn't understand is why is the crowd, even if it's the real crowd or the ambient noise that they're pumping in, why are they booing Cody? He comes back to beat Brody Lee, who's clearly one of the top heels, and Cody's this baby face taking the title back, and everyone is so over for him. And then all of a sudden, they're booing him versus Orange Cassidy. I don't understand where they go from that.
Orange Cassidy is incredibly over,
right.
But I can't disagree, and I think that was one of the things you pointed out in last week's show is they almost painted themselves in a corner here. Obviously, Orange Cassidy needed a good showing given he was beaten down by Brody in his last match, and this was his first real title. He got another title opportunity, so he needed to have a good showing. But I know what you mean. Cody is the backbone, and is this? Yeah. He didn't really play heel at all during the match. No. It's not as if he did anything in particular that would make you feel like he, deserved any sort of booing whatsoever from the fans. It was definitely odd.
Right. I don't understand why Brody Lee was not present, and how they're like, oh, the Dark Order's in the crowd, and then Brody Lee's not here. They just quickly brushed over it. I think him not being present was kind of hurting him. Some other take about the Dark Order though, John, not to go on a tangent, John Silver, I know Zepp, our other Dynamite Download member, is very high on him. He had an awesome show, man. He not only was he hilarious in this match, the little bit he was there, his reactions and his just overreactions, and then when they got picked for the tag team match next week, his reaction on that too. I don't know, John Silver, I'm starting to become a huge fan of him. But back to the Cody Orange Cassidy match. Overall, yes, I agree with you. The wrestling was fantastic. That apron beach break by OC near the end was, wow, unbelievable. And once again, was never a fan of this. The time limit thing. I guess you're protecting both guys, from having Orange Cassidy getting back-to-back title losses.
Right.
And them just saying there's a rematch in 2 weeks, kind of I don't know. It's a weird, I don't know where they're going with it. It's a weird booking, in my opinion. And I noticed that the women's title match, not to jump ahead, had a 60-minute time limit, but this TNT has a 20-minute time limit. So what's going on here? What is your take on that?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of inconsistencies there. Even the tag title match with Best Friends, right? All the Brush with Greatness challenges is about the 20 minutes with FTR, and then that match was a 60-minute time limit.
Right.
There are some inconsistencies, and I think that time limits have been a controversial thing with AEW to this point. I think that a little bit more consistency would be beneficial for the show. It would allow fans to get a little better feel for what to expect. I think that all championship matches should have a default time limit that we can all agree to and move forward with as a foundation. I don't think it should be jerked back and forth when it's convenient. And when we have something like this where it's a 20-minute time limit and then it runs out, it sort of almost feels like it was kind of shoehorned in there.
Right.
So it was an opportunity for them to get out of like you said, being booked into a corner. Do you have OC lose clean again to the champion, or do you have Cody win and then lose 1 week after winning? It was really a no-win situation that you pointed out last week, and I think that it ended up, unfortunately, rearing its ugly head. To me, I thought that going into the match, I thought the Dark Order was going to get involved. I thought that it was going to end in a DQ, and in that way, it would have saved both parties. It would have made them both look good. But they did get involved and got thrown out. So, I think that unfortunately, like, that is something that leaves us with more questions than answers, and maybe not in a good way.
Yeah, I know.
What were your thoughts on overall, Sean, before we give our I'm going to toss it to you.
Yeah.
Elite or delete, and why? I'll let you kind of elaborate a little bit on it.
So for that Dark Order whole thing, I was very confused. I think I kind of have like a side conspiracy theory on this, that something maybe happened to Brody where he couldn't get to the show. That could be something, because if they're going to just postpone this Orange Cassidy Cody match for 2 weeks, have a rematch, then I could totally see that Brody Lee coming back again and doing something like that. So I don't know. It's, to me, overall, it is definitely an elite match for the wrestling and, the story and all that. And then having Darby Allin be in the crowd, you'll see him, just kind of sitting there hinting at it. And then the announcement that he's going to be getting the TNT title championship match at Full Gear, which to me still, we all, I feel like we agree that Darby is a future champion in some aspect or another. But I don't think he's still ready to hold the strap, especially with his long history of being injured and concussions and this reckless style he has. But the match itself is an elite for me by far. Overall wrestling is really great. And I'm not a fan of the time limit. And what I really like when they do in Cody matches is that big pan across when he's on the top turnbuckle, where it's like this wide angle pan. So I'm all about like the camera angles, and AEW has got some really cool camera angles. They've been starting to incorporate, the overhead angle and then the long, fast pan where he's up there on the top of the turnbuckle. I think that's a really great aesthetic look.
That's a good point by you, and one that I haven't picked up on. I think I'm going to surprise you, and I'm going to say this is a delete. I was disappointed. I think that although it was a great match, and again, Orange Cassidy put on a great showing, I think one of the things that I'm starting to see, and I think AEW needs to be careful of, is that every single Cody match is becoming this, other than when he was surprisingly defeated very quickly by Brody Lee.
Yeah.
Every single Cody match seems like it has to be like this epic match. That, it's got to be this back and forth, and it's got to be drawn, this push Cody to the limit type of match.
Yeah.
And again, this one went 20 minutes. I feel like you got to be careful that they're starting to kind of fall into this formulaic blueprint of a Cody match. And the same thing's starting to happen with Jericho, and that's starting to really concern me, where, Jericho is getting tested and being pushed to the limit by guys who are beneath him. I don't know. I was disappointed in the overall feel of this match. I don't know. To me, again, the two styles definitely blended well together as far as Orange Cassidy being able to showcase his abilities in the ring. But as an overall segment, it fell flat. The time limit was kind of it didn't do anything for me. I think the false finish at the end. The false finish at the end didn't really didn't do anything for me. And again, I think that Cody needs to have a little, as his first title defense. I understand putting Orange Cassidy over a little bit, but I wasn't into it. Maybe it's because I'm not as big of an OC guy as some, but I know I'm starting to sound a little bitter and jaded. Maybe I sound a little like Jim Cornette, and maybe Nate would be cutting a promo on me right now. Because honestly, yes, the match itself, it's hard to nitpick. But I was expecting a lot out of this show, and I guess maybe that's
too.
on me as a fan. But I don't know. Let's get into it. Like I said, I know I'm starting to maybe be a little bitter here. Why don't we step back?
We can. I need to sleep on it, and I know you need to sleep on it. We'll reiterate it. You'll give our thoughts on Twitter, and in your write up in the Crayfish Corner on the DynamiteDownload.com, you can read all about it. So it is interesting where they go from here, and so But in the meantime,
my favorite part. And this will also segue into Nate's promo because Nate is our resident Darby Allin fanboy. My favorite part about the whole match, honestly, was the cuts to Darby in the crowd. To me, Darby and Cody have a lot of history together. Darby and Cody, for the ultimate underdog of Darby Allin, Cody has been the guy he's always wanted to try to get over that hump. And he hasn't been able to. And I think that if Darby ultimately is the guy who beats Cody, again, I think that there's a lot there that I'm interested in. So that in and of itself, I know.
I can't see Darby doing that, and that just is a shame. I think they should have ended the match if they did a time limit choice like that. It should have been with a Darby distraction on the ramp. Like, oh, there's 1 minute remaining. Then Darby, like the lights go down. Darby shows up, and then he's like standing there, and they're both just like staring at him. And then the time limit goes out, and so that way it's like an even bigger match build.
Darby, I will say, like you and I both have called for a little bit more it's weird that to call for more distraction finishes or more DQs. AEW doesn't do that a lot. AEW does not fall into the DQ distraction roll-up finishes. They don't do that a lot, and I appreciate that. But when you compare that to a time limit draw, maybe there's maybe it adds a little bit more to the story. I don't know.